So, after an extraordinary qualifying day, they're all set for the Japanese Grand Prix. If you're just joining us, welcome. Let me remind you, Jacques Villeneuve is racing under appeal. Any points he scores probably won't count. James Allen and Louise Goodman are in the pits. Here's Martin Brundle and, first of all, Murray Walker.
All to play for at Suzuka, and just look at that massed crowd in the background. There is a 135,000 sellout here, and they've been sold out for 6 months. Millions of people try to get tickets for Suzuka. Only the privileged 135,000 can do so. And what a contest they can expect to see today, with Jacques Villeneuve, as you now well know, starting under suspension with a possible penalty to be increased at a tribunal later. Michael Schumacher, who is just 1 point behind him in the World Championship, on the front row of the grid with Villeneuve. So whatever happens, we're going to see the battle of the titans of 1997, the two men who have dominated the championship. Eddie Irvine starting in the Ferrari from his highest ever grid position, third in the second Ferrari. Mika Häkkinen is fourth behind Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. Häkkinen in the McLaren Mercedes, which has had engine troubles in recent races. They believe they have overcome them now. Gerhard Berger in the Benetton, the man who won the German Grand Prix, is fifth on the grid. Less than half a second slower on the grid than Jacques Villeneuve in pole position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who has won one race for Williams this year, is looking for another win here in Japan and is sixth on the grid. Damon Hill is well down, 17th position in the Arrows. It's a tyre war as ever between Bridgestone and Goodyear, and the highest Bridgestone runner, it's a Japanese company, to everybody's surprise, Olivier Panis, is only in 10th position, because the Bridgestone tyres have not performed as well here in qualifying and the practice sessions as everybody expected them to. We thought they'd produce a demon construction and compound. It doesn't seem to have happened. Blue skies, just a flicker of clouds amongst the sky, and the weather conditions are forecast to be good for the race. And that's a mercy, because we've seen some terrible days here at Suzuka with the track awash. Not the least of them was the happy day for Britain and Damon Hill when he won in 1994 in the most appalling conditions. 21 on the grid, because Gianni Morbidelli, the little Italian driver in the second Sauber Petronas, had a major off yesterday and damn it hurt his arm. He hasn't broken it or anything like that, but he strained muscles. He tried in the warm-up for a couple of laps and was not at all happy.
Yes, he went over the nasty Dunlop curve and uphill, very, very long left-hander, bumpy on the way in, and he's hurt his arm. Remember, he had a testing accident earlier in the year when he actually broke that arm, so unfortunately he's revisited that damage. As you rightly say, it's not broken, but it's certainly very painful. He tried to go out in the warm-up to do a couple of laps to have a look, but just could not drive the car, so problems there for Morbidelli, and we're down to 21 cars.
And in the background, on the right-hand side of your screen, you see the giant Ferris wheel. You get a fabulous view of the Suzuka circuit and Honda Land, the amusement park, because this magnificent circuit is owned by Honda. It's absolutely unique in that it is a gigantic, very much distorted figure of 8 with a crossover. And when you go back across the other part of the track on the return of the lap, you go up to the fabled 130R bend, which is one of the most demanding in Grand Prix racing. This Japanese Grand Prix is going to be over 53 laps, plus one. The one lap is the formation lap, and it is about to begin.
Interestingly, Michael Schumacher, you can see him on the front of the grid there to the left, just slightly back from Jacques Villeneuve, who's on pole position. He's already been out in his backup car. He did a lap in it before jumping into his race car. That's good forward planning if there is any kind of start line incident and his car gets damaged and there's a restart. He's already checked out his spare car, so that's the kind of thought pattern that they've got in there. I was very interested in what Eddie Irvine said about, yes, we have a plan. They've clearly discussed something. He wouldn't tell us what it was, naturally, but it's quite obvious that Eddie Irvine, having got his car up into third place, Ferrari want to make full use of anything he can achieve there today, and in terms of holding up the opposition, or if he can get ahead of Villeneuve into the first corner. Irvine knows this track well, and he knows full well if you can get a clear run down the outside into turn 1, people do tend to brake very early here for that first corner. And as at Nürburgring, when you all arrive, there really is only one line, and if you're on the outside, you tend to get hung out to dry. Here they are through that Dunlop curve into Degner now. Villeneuve taking them very slowly, as he tends to do when he's on pole position. Other drivers tend to force the early part of this lap, getting temperature into the engine gearbox, the brakes, and keeping the temperature in the tyres, of course. But Villeneuve tends to take it fairly steadily and keeps the pack relatively tightly closed up. So he's now moving up towards Spoon Corner. You can see he's lifted off the throttle now to try and keep them somewhere near him. Otherwise, he will sit on the grid for 3/4 of a minute waiting for them to join up and take their position in their grid slots. Coming into Spoon now, normally heading in here about 140 miles an hour. It's a great corner. You can really take so much speed in there, taking the car right to the outside. It's very slippery on the outside, very, very easy to spin off. Now, this is the point yesterday, right there where they had the waved yellow flag. The reason Villeneuve says, but the car was on a straight. Yes, it was at the beginning of a straight, but if you spin off coming out of Spoon, invariably you spin off to the inside, hitting the barrier exactly where that Tyrrell was parked, and that's why the stewards were so upset the drivers were not lifting off for the waved yellows. Moving around there, putting some tyre temperature in. As I've said before, I believe at low speeds it does absolutely nothing. You need load in the tyre to make them work. You either need speed or you need weight, and going so slowly you don't have that. What they can do is press the throttle very hard and make the rear tyres work, putting the energy through the rear tyres and keeping the front tyres up to temperature using the brake pedal. Hakkinen going through there, the Benetton, Frentzen moving now, and you can see now the track sweeping downhill as they start to think about where their grid slot is. It may sound silly, but it's not always obvious where you've got to park, and you tend to have some kind of reference to the side of the track as you begin to form up.
Villeneuve comes up to the left-hand side of the grid. It's the right. As you look at it, you'll see Schumacher come out from behind his car. He's done so to form up on the second grid position. Eddie Irvine in the third place. There he is. In fourth position, it's Mika Hakkinen in the silver McLaren behind Michael Schumacher. The last two cars coming up to the grid are those of Jos Verstappen and Mika Salo in the two Tyrrell Fords. And Villeneuve looks across over his right shoulder to Michael Schumacher sitting impassively there in the Ferrari. The safety car is behind them. They are all lined up, 21 ready to go. As usual, watch for the lights. When the fifth goes out, there will be a pause, and then it will be time for action in Japan. And Villeneuve comes straight across the front of the track, pushes Michael Schumacher to the side. Hakkinen has passed Irvine up into third place. So there's a change already, and really, really rumbustious tactics from Jacques Villeneuve. But Michael Schumacher was ready for it. I know that. He was expecting something aggressive at the beginning, and he got it. And Michael Schumacher now is following Jacques Villeneuve. Mika Hakkinen up into third place. Eddie Irvine down into fourth position. I didn't see where Gerhard Berger was because he started fifth on the grid. And now Jacques Villeneuve will be looking to make a break to get away from Michael Schumacher. And it is indeed Berger is either in fifth or sixth position. I didn't see from the light on the top. It's in fifth position. There's a Benetton there, and I think that Heinz-Harald Frentzen has lost his sixth position on the grid to the other Benetton of Jean Alesi, who was seventh and is a fabled quick starter. And this is the Spoon. Round the Spoon curve, they take it in third gear, in at 105 miles an hour, out at 80 miles an hour. Villeneuve, Schumacher, Hakkinen, Irvine. Now, round the Spoon, climbing up towards the left-hander, which goes round the 130R. That's a fantastic corner. Now down to the chicane, which has caused so much trouble in the past. coming through to complete the first lap. Look how close they are. Villeneuve, Schumacher, Hakkinen, Irvine. Over the line. 1 lap completed. 52 laps to go. 4th is Irvine, 5th is Frentzen, 6th is Berger. So Heinz-Harald Frentzen has got past Gerhard Berger. Both the Benettons are together now in 6th and 7th places. Johnny Herbert is 8th. Coulthard has gained 2 places.
And there's the restart. Michael Schumacher away slightly better than Villeneuve. Villeneuve was thinking on his feet, moved across, said, I'm going to put some manners on you right from the beginning. And really a good start there. Not the start Ferrari needed. Schumacher's in 2nd. Irvine's been neutralised, but somehow Irvine has passed Hakkinen. Eddie Irvine has got past Hakkinen. That's good news for Schumacher. He can now draw him along and make use of him later in the race. I'd like to see a replay of how that happened. Unfortunately, the director had us looking at a replay of the start, which is fair enough. I'm hoping he'll now show us where the Ferrari passed. Is that Schumacher in 3rd place?
It is. Michael Schumacher is 3rd, and Eddie Irvine has got... We've missed this. The producer has missed it, sadly. Eddie Irvine not only got ahead of Mika Hakkinen, but he's got ahead of Michael Schumacher. Maybe this is the plan. Maybe the plan...
Here we go. Look, this is Irvine going around the outside of... And he's going to take Schumacher too. Irvine taking 2 cars in 1 corner.
At turn 2. Now, Eddie Irvine really knows this Suzuka circuit. This is where he made his reputation when he drove for Eddie Jordan against Ayrton Senna and had the temerity to pass the Brazilian, which Ayrton didn't like one little bit. Eddie Irvine wasn't the least bit bothered, and look at the way he goes now.
I don't think Michael Schumacher will have enjoyed it any more than Senna did, because that's just not what Schumacher needed at all. And a magnificent move there. I've seen that done in the wet, where people are overcautious because the track falls away from you. I've never seen it done to that extent in the dry, except on the start when everybody's out shuffling each other. So incredible move there from Irvine.
Could this possibly have been the plan that he was talking about?
Well, I would have thought the plan would be to stay as far away from Michael Schumacher as he could in those kind of incidents, let alone slicing around the outside of him, but it came off and it worked well, so no problem. And he can now chase after Irvine. I really don't believe you could orchestrate that one. There we go.
Look at Eddie Irvine in the Scarlet Ferrari, driving around the double world champion Michael Schumacher, who has Mika Hakkinen close up behind him. Irvine, of course, is the fastest man on the course. 1 minute 44.127. Jean Todt, the boss of Ferrari, can't believe his eyes. Irvine has passed Schumacher, and they've come down to the spoon turn for the 3rd time. And Irvine is starting to close on and really harry Villeneuve.
Well, I wonder how much fuel that car of Irvine's has got in it, because it's absolutely flying. A new fastest lap for him. Maybe this is part of the strategy, because, well, Michael Schumacher would have been more surprised than anybody to see that Ferrari around the outside. And that's Irvine closing in. That Ferrari is extremely light, has to be. It's absolutely flying, and no way he can be going that much faster than the front runner without some kind of advantage with weight.
Well spotted. That's a beautiful bit of race reading. And Eddie Irvine, we assume, and now Michael Schumacher's having a look at Villeneuve, who knows that it's Schumacher behind him. And look how close it is, because there is 2 seconds covering the first 6 at the present moment. Gerhard Berger is 6th, Frentzen is 5th, Hakkinen is in 4th position. And then that titanic struggle, and off goes Magnussen. Jan Magnussen's race has ended early in the Stewart Ford, and that's the 12th time he's retired this year.
He will have got up high as he's swept into one, and then if you just go in a little deep, you get up high, get onto the dirty part of the track, and then you're in trouble. So there's Irvine, 42.3. They're 1.4 seconds faster than Villeneuve on that last lap. So Eddie Irvine's got some kind of amazing
he must be running it on the smell of an oil rag from the way he's streaking off with a lighter car. And Jacques Villeneuve now is leading what is in effect the rest, which is in fact the rest of the race. And look at them. They are still on lap 4 out of 53, nose to tail. Villeneuve 2nd, Schumacher 3rd, Hakkinen 4th, Frentzen 5th, Berger in 6th position, Jean Alesi, his teammate 7th. The replay.
This is Irvine taking the lead from Villeneuve into the chicane. Fantastic move. Irvine had to defend the Villeneuve defending the inside line. Irvine said, I don't care, I'll go down the outside then if that's your problem. And well, Villeneuve there really, I would think, quite surprised at where Irvine got that kind of speed from. But even if he does have some kind of weight advantage, Irvine is flying.
Yeah, but let's remember that if he's driving a much lighter car, he'll have to come in that much sooner. And if Jacques Villeneuve can stay ahead of Michael Schumacher, he will be fulfilling part of his race plan. And he's lapping now 5 seconds slower than Eddie Irvine.
Well, that's a 1:40.9 from Eddie Irvine and a 45.5 from Jacques Villeneuve.
And the all-time fastest lap record, Nigel Mansell, 1992, in a 3.5-litre Ferrari, is only 0.3 of a second faster than that. So Eddie Irvine is driving almost at all-time lap record speed, notwithstanding the fact he's got 500cc less in the engine.
Is this the first time Irvine's led a Grand Prix?
It is indeed.
But I just... So hang on, let's just stop and think about this. Irvine, maybe Schumacher did slow up Hakkinen to let Irvine pass. I still think he would have been surprised to see Irvine also slicing alongside him. And now Irvine's got in front of Villeneuve. Great, so that's great for the strategy. So why is he flashing off into the distance? He can't help Schumacher there.
Well, I can only lamely say that he's building up as much of a lead as he can so that when he does come in, he will make his pit stop as short as possible. But we'll just have to wait and see. So, Eddie Irvine with a clear track behind him. Look at that! And we're still waiting 6 seconds later, and it's Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Hakkinen, Frentzen and Lacey, nose to tail behind the Ferrari of Eddie Irvine. It's a Williams and a Ferrari.
Hakkinen having a look at the inside there of Michael Schumacher. Villeneuve does appear to be sort of a bit of a mobile chicane at the moment. He's got a good queue of cars behind him. And, well, Michael Schumacher will be thinking, how do I get past Villeneuve? And at the same time, he's keeping an eye on in his mirrors for Mika Hakkinen. He's been once again fast all weekend.
For sure, Michael Schumacher won't be trying anything chancy to get past Jacques Villeneuve in this race. Michael is fireproof. He's not in danger of losing any points. Villeneuve is a long way from being fireproof. He may suspect, as many other people do, that the appeal is a lost cause, and he's really going to struggle to keep in front of Michael Schumacher. But meantime, Eddie Irvine reveling in the situation of leading a Grand Prix for real in the Ferrari for the first time. He's now nearly 9 seconds and building. He's a consistent minimum of 4 seconds faster than anybody else as we ride with Mika Hakkinen.
Villeneuve running a little wide there into the hairpin, but Schumacher has nowhere to go. Hakkinen, we are now sitting, this is the view Mika Hakkinen can see. We're just slightly above his head as we're heading up towards the Spoon Corner, and we're just sweeping here at about 140 miles an hour. Take a bit of curb. Hakkinen's car looks good, doesn't it? He's faster than Schumacher if he gets past him. And then on the power down the back straight, Villeneuve pulling away nicely out of there. Remember, Eddie Irvine gave us a bit of a clue when he was talking to Louise on the start line. He said, I've got to give up my race for Michael. But I still can't see, it'll unfold later, I still can't see what he's doing for Michael at the moment.
Well, neither can I, Martin. It's a 53-lap race, so we're on lap 7. We've got plenty of time to think about it as they go into that notorious chicane where Senna and Prost had their coming together. And as they go into the 7th lap, you're looking now at Villeneuve, Schumacher and Hakkinen, and 12 seconds up the road ahead of them is Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari. A great race already. Well, Rubens Barrichello has just spun out of the Japanese Grand Prix. We've seen a very unhappy Jackie Stewart because on lap 8 of 53, both his cars are out. And meantime, behind the flying Eddie Irvine on lap 8 that we're looking at, now leading in Japan by 12.7 seconds, Jean Alesi has passed his teammate Gerhard Berger up into 7th place. Top 6, Irvine, Villeneuve, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Frentzen, Alesi. News from James Allen in the pits.
Murray, there's a tremendous amount of conference going on, as you can imagine, on the pit wall between Jock Clare, Villeneuve's race engineer, and Patrick Head, the team's technical director, as to exactly what this strategy is of Ferraris. There's no question they work as a team, Ferrari. There's no question that this is part of the game plan. This isn't Irvine going off on a flyer. My feeling is, well, the lost time here for a short pit stop, while Irvine's obviously running low fuel, is about 20 to 23 seconds. If you can build a lead up like that, we're on a 53-lap race. First stop between 18, around about lap 18. Get Irvine out ahead of Villeneuve, and he's already got his second load of fuel on board. Ferrari can then control the pace. Michael Schumacher is helped when he makes his stop, and Villeneuve is controlled. That's my theory. Let's see if it works.
Master plan, James Allen, jolly good. 12 seconds is the lead that this man, Eddie Irvine, has on lap 9.
This is curious. Now, Villeneuve is now the fastest man on the track. From doing 44s, Villeneuve, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Frentzen, and now all in the 41s. Villeneuve was controlling that pack, and James could well be spot on there, because somebody from the Williams camp has been saying, hey, get on with it, guy, because you know, as this is beginning to unfold, you've got Eddie Irvine could be a spoiler, but Irvine a long way out front, 12 seconds out front already.
Now you're looking at Heitz Harold Frentzen in 5th position, pursued by Jean Alesi and Gerhard Berger round the spoon in the 2 Benettons. Johnny Herbert is there in 8th position, and Michael Schumacher still pursues Eddie Irvine. Fastest lap of the race then, 1 minute 40.616, a new all-time lap record as Irvine goes through to start his 10th lap.
Bad day for Jackie Stewart and his team. Both of his drivers have spun off the track. Magnussen high in turn 1, and then Barrichello losing it on the exit of 130R, and that, hope that's not Katayama dropping out of his final home Grand Prix. He's announced his retirement this weekend from Grand Prix racing, and well, that's sad, he didn't get too far into that.
A gigantically popular and much respected driver, not the greatest Japan has produced, but a great little trier. He's never been on the podium, to his great sorrow. He's been very close to it. He's had a 4th position, but Katayama's now going to devote his life to his second love, which is mountain climbing. He's just been up Matterhorn. His objective is to climb Everest without oxygen, would you believe? Good luck to him. Good luck to Eddie Irvine. He's now 12 seconds, as near as makes no difference, and Michael Schumacher is gaining because he is now the fastest man on the track with a lap of 1 minute 40.487.
This is bizarre, absolutely bizarre, because Villeneuve's now in the 40s, as they all are. Why was Villeneuve doing 44s when Irvine was flashing off into the lead like that? So very, very strange. Maybe Villeneuve was too busy watching Michael Schumacher. It's absolutely, I've never seen a race starting quite this way.
Neither have I. Lap 10, 1 to 10. Irvine leads by 11 seconds, 0.7. Villeneuve second, Schumacher third. There's the gap. Behind Schumacher is Häkkinen fourth. 5th is Frentzen, 6th is Alesi. 7th is Berger, 8th is Herbert, 9th is Coulthard, 10th is Fisichella, and the Jordans are struggling. Giancarlo Fisichella 10th. Ralf Schumacher, with a lot of Suzuka experience and very quick in practice, is down at 13th position. Schumacher's been going quick before the race and qualifying, but wasn't able to do anything about it in the race. Damon Hill, by the way, is in 11th place, chasing Giancarlo Fisichella. You'll just see his yellow Jordan coming to sight with Damon Hill behind him. There he is, and behind Damon Hill is Olivier Panis, the top Bridgestone runner. That is Ralf Schumacher down in 13th place. Behind him is Marquez.
Well, Hill is the top Bridgestone runner, of course, just ahead of Panis. Bridgestone came here this weekend. They appear to have their safe tyres too hard, too secure. Their soft tyre was too soft, won't work. The rear construction wasn't as it should have been. And really, a lot of people feared the Bridgestone runners here, but it just simply hasn't materialised for those 3 reasons. Nonetheless, Damon Hill taking 7 places in the early part of the race. Good run for him.
Well, whatever Eddie Irvine's instructions are in this bizarre Japanese Grand Prix of 1997, he is obeying them superlatively well, as he has done all this year and all last year. You're looking at Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher. The next man in shot should be Mika Häkkinen. There he is. So it's Ferrari, McLaren. Behind the McLaren is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's not making any impression at all. Only 3 men at the moment are gaining on the chap in front of them. 4 men. One of them is Villeneuve, who is starting to catch Eddie Irvine. Häkkinen is closing up on Michael Schumacher. Irvine has responded. He has now done a 1 minute 40.437, which is the fastest lap of the race. And over the line goes Jacques Villeneuve. The other man who's gaining is Olivier Panis, and he is in 12th position, catching Damon Hill. In fact, he's right behind him. So, Frentzen, Alesi, Berger, Johnny Herbert, David Coulthard down in 9th position. Here is Fisichella, followed by Hill, followed by Panis, followed by Schumacher.
Well, if you're on a 2-stop strategy, you'd be coming in about lap 18, really, for your first stop. Irvine's 11 laps into the race already, just set a new lap record. He's not that light on fuel, Murray. He had some fuel in the car.
Yeah, I mean, if he's on a 3-stop strategy, which is feasible. When I was checking with people today, I was talking to the Goodyear technicians, and they said it could be 1, Murray, it could be 2, it might even be 3. And if it's a 3-stop strategy, Eddie Irvine would be coming in round about lap 12, which is now.
But looking now down, there's still Villeneuve, Schumacher, Häkkinen, Frentzen, Alesi, Berger, really well in the 40s and 41s. Was Villeneuve just asleep in those first few laps?
Well, if he was, he's possibly got every reason to be, because, my goodness, he must have had a sleepless night. He must have been kicking himself for what he did, as a result of which he's really suffering because of that penalty that he's had.
Well, and if he was asleep, why didn't Michael Schumacher put the move on him that Eddie Irvine was able to do? So, I mean,
you keep on asking all the difficult questions. This race is a puzzle to me.
Yeah, I'm asking myself because I want to fathom it out. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. It's whatever it is, it's throwing everything and everybody into confusion. Well, it'll all shake out in the first pit stop.
And here is the battle for second place. Villeneuve in the Williams, Michael Schumacher, and I really do have the feeling, Martin, that they are both in their different ways holding station. We're riding with Michael Schumacher now, pursuing Villeneuve through the snake, the opening corners, the Ferris wheel on the right, coming up to the long left-hander at turn 7, and you can't really tell, but I can tell you from having walked round this circuit that that's a real climb up to there, and there is Nakano, the Japanese driver, challenging Tasso Marquez in the Minardi. That's Tasso Marquez in front. There is Nakano, and the Japanese producer is quite understandably having a look at his countryman, because Nakano probably won't be in the Prost team next year, which is certainly going to be Olivier Panis and probably Jarno Trulli as well. And there is the incredible Eddie Irvine in the equally incredible Ferrari. It's the lightweight chassis, we know that, because there's 3 of them here. But it's a very, very lighter weight car on account of, we assume, a reduced fuel load. And the Benetton people are out in the pit lane. That will be for Gerhard Berger, I think. And McLaren are out as well. It could be for Mika Häkkinen, who can't get past Michael Schumacher. It's probably not for David Coulthard, because he's 2 seconds behind Johnny Herbert. And in it comes, and it is Mika Häkkinen. Mika Häkkinen from 4th position comes in, and you can see that it's a long pit lane here at Suzuki. There's the white line, down to 75 miles an hour. Stop.
An interesting stop here, because we've already said the start line's on a big slope. So is the pit lane, of course, and the car tends to slide on its jacks. And it's very important here that they somehow locate the car while they're refueling it and putting the tyres on. And then, as soon as it hits the ground, the driver plays an important role. Good stop there for Berger.
That's significant. Gerhard Berger only took 4.9 seconds. Mika Häkkinen took 6.9 seconds. And Nakano passes Tasso Marquez and moves up to 13th place now, with those 2 cars having stopped in the pit lane for more fuel and tyres. We're on lap 14 now. This Japanese Grand Prix is melting like ice on the desert. It's going so quickly. Cesare Fiorio in the Prost pit lane with Humphrey Corbett next to him, as in towards us comes Eddie Irvine. We know that Benetton are still out there in the pit lane, so they will be getting Jean Alesi in, and McLaren for David Coulthard. Pit stop so far, Mika Häkkinen from 4th position and Gerhard Berger from 7th position. Eddie Irvine, race leader, lap 14, Ferrari.
Doesn't necessarily mean that they're on a 3-stop strategy, even though they've stopped early. They could be extending the second and third stint, as it were. But quite clearly, the pace Irvine had in the beginning part of this race, we really thought he was extremely light on fuel. Well, if he was, he wouldn't have got this far. So a bit of a disservice there. I've paid him in many ways.
In comes the second Benetton of Jean Alesi from 5th position. Calmly rolls up to the 2 jacks, front and rear.
Some blisters on those tyres, some nasty blisters on the right rear tyre of that Benetton as David Coulthard comes in for his stop. There you can see it. Not many people around the paddock were expecting 3-stop strategy for this race, but looks like in the heat of the afternoon, maybe they're getting some blisters they haven't seen to date.
This is interesting. Both the Benettons have taken 2 seconds less than both the McLarens. But we're on lap 15. Eddie Irvine is leading Jacques Villeneuve by 12.3 seconds, and Michael Schumacher is just 1.2 seconds further back.
Zeit zwischen den beiden Messpunkten verbracht. Aber dazwischen lag ja auch noch eine Runde und es kommt immer darauf an, wie man die hinbekommen hat. Also die beiden Bennett und die beiden McLaren, die einzigen bis jetzt, die in der Box waren. Persönliche schnellste Runde in dieser letzten von Villeneuve, Frentzen und Johnny Herbert. Und Eddie Irvine genießt weiterhin seine Führung. Er hat ja bis jetzt erst ein einziges Mal geführt in Argentinien in diesem Jahr. Da durfte er sich 5 Runden über den Platz an der Sonne freuen.
Und er ist der Erste, der jetzt in die 39er Zeiten kommt, also unter 40 gefahren, 39,935.
Und Michael Schumacher kommt wieder ein bisschen näher ran an Villeneuve, aber jetzt deutet sich auch bei Ferrari der erste Boxenstopp an. Und bei Williams tut sich noch nichts. Panis kommt rein.
Die frühen Boxenstopps am Anfang sind oft natürlich strategisch bedingt, da man einfach im Pulk drin ist und man will da sich frei strampeln, dass man versucht, da irgendwie in besseres Gelände zu kommen nach dem Boxenstopp.
Und die Spitzengruppe schenkt sich nichts. Michael Schumacher jetzt mit einer persönlichen besten Runde. 1:40,366. Knappe 4 Zehntel langsamer als Eddie Irvines schnellste Runde, die Sie jetzt wieder eingeblendet sehen. Aber jetzt kommt er rein. Eddie Irvine kommt rein, Vorsprung waren knappe 13 Sekunden. Und wenn jetzt nicht auch Villeneuve reinkommt, dann ist der Vorsprung natürlich erstmal weg, beziehungsweise die Führungsposition. Noch ist von Villeneuve nicht.
Leads the Japanese Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher is second. Eddie Irvine has been in and comes out behind the second Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's now in 3rd position. So Eddie Irvine has rejoined the race after his short pit stop in 4th position, ahead of Johnny Herbert, Giancarlo Fisichella. Damon Hill is up into 7th place. Mika Häkkinen is down to 8th after his pit stop. And the men who have stopped now on lap 17 are Eddie Irvine, Mika Häkkinen, Jean Alesi, Gerhard Berger, David Coulthard and Olivier Panis. But, and this is the major but, Michael Schumacher has not yet been in, Jacques Villeneuve has not yet been in, and their pit stops are going to decide which of those 2 men lead the Japanese Grand Prix. So there is Schumacher. You've just seen Villeneuve go through your picture. I'm looking down the pit lane. I can tell you that the Williams team are not out in the pit lane, and I can tell you that the Ferrari people are. So it could well be that Michael Schumacher is going to be coming into the pit lane at the end of this lap, with the gap between him and Michael Schumacher 1.4 seconds. But while I say that, the Ferrari people just break ranks and move back into the garage. Michael Schumacher will not be coming in.
No, he's missed the pit lane now, so clearly he wants to do another lap. That's Schumacher in the chicane. You see he's barely just over a second, 1.4 seconds behind Villeneuve as they come up to start their 18th lap. And just to reiterate, really, I'm beginning to think that Irvine just has a fantastic car underneath him, and he's driving it beautifully. And in this race, it's going to break his heart, because he's going to have to drop behind Michael Schumacher before the end of the race. He cannot take points off of Schumacher, and the only way he can help him is interfere with Villeneuve's race. So this is, if Irvine is going truly as fast, another new lap record just before his pit stop of a 1:39.9.
First lap ever under 140.
Yes, and he's just absolutely storming. So this is going to be tragic for him if he has to give this up.
You're absolutely right as you watch Shinji Nakano coming into the pits, because Eddie Irvine has already virtually demolished the gap between himself and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is in third position, as Nakano leaves the pit lane. Lap 18 now, he rejoins with a clear track behind him. He's following Mika Salo, who is 17th in the race, and we join on the pit lane the scarlet uniformed serried ranks of the Ferrari mechanics. And there are the Williams men. They're obviously not expecting Villeneuve in for a little while. The tyre covers are off for Michael Schumacher. He's definitely coming in this lap. He's closing right up on Jacques Villeneuve to reduce the gap between himself to the minimum. James, he's in the pit lane.
Michael Schumacher coming down. I had a quick look at Irvine's tyres when they came off. A little bit of blistering on the left front, but otherwise pretty good. Because it's not the wear here that's the problem, it's the give up in the tyre. They just tend to go away, the speed isn't there. Michael Schumacher coming in. Now my theory is that they will try and get him out in a quicker stop than Villeneuve's, so that he will obviously be in front of him. Then obviously they'll have Irvine in front of Schumacher. Whether it'll play out that way, I don't know. But some of the Ferrari mechanics, that was very quick. That really was quick. Some of the Ferrari mechanics, 7.1 seconds. Some of the Ferrari mechanics are a little bit surprised not to see the Williams guys out here as well. So there's a lot of cat and mouse going on down here. It's really interesting.
7.1 seconds, but it's slower than both the McLarens, much slower than both the Benettons. And now Jacques Villeneuve is leading. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is up into second position. Here is the new race leader. Not the new race leader, the race leader. Villeneuve is on his 19th lap out of 53. News from Louise Goodman, who is with Rubens Barrichello.
Rubens, that was a nasty place to have an accident. How did it happen?
Well, it's not normal for me really to fall off the track, but it's my car was for just one stop, and I just took me.
It was a worrying moment when you slewed across the track. Did that make you your heart miss a beat?
Well, I don't know. There was no place for me to stay on the other side. It was quite dangerous, so I have to cross the track.
You haven't injured yourself at all?
No, I'm okay. It's just a pity that the car was running well for one stop, and it's quite windy, so it took me into a spin.
Thanks, Rubens. Back to you, Murray.
Well, while we were talking to Rubino there, we saw Damon Hill and with Diniz and Panis. I think Hill has some kind of problem. It was a very, very slow lap for him. He's now dropped back down to 15th, although Damon has had a pit stop as well, as has Panis. Damon appeared to be struggling in the background, so we'll maybe hear some more news on that shortly.
Well, you're looking at Eddie Irvine in third position. We're on lap 20 now. Williams are getting ready to bring Villeneuve in, who's taking the opportunity to speed up. There they are coming out. But Villeneuve speeding up is still not as fast at 140.8 as Eddie Irvine, who's nearly a full second faster, 139.9 on his fastest ever, anybody's fastest ever, lap of Suzuka. Villeneuve is leading Frentzen by 3.3 seconds. Irvine is third. Johnny Herbert is fourth and has not stopped. Michael Schumacher is fifth and has stopped. So Johnny Herbert will be coming in soon. Jacques Villeneuve into the spoon. He's got clear track between himself and his teammate Heinz-Harald Frentzen, you saw in the background going round the spoon. tyre covers coming off the tyres for the Williams-Renault. Let's remind ourselves that Renault, with their V10 dominant engine, who took the first 4 places in the Luxembourg Grand Prix, have only got one more Grand Prix left after this, and that's the European Grand Prix in Spain in 2 weeks' time, before they retire after dominating Formula One for a long, long time. And as you can see, Jacques Villeneuve isn't slowing up. Here he comes, James. Look out for him.
Okay, Eddie Irvine is third. He's 4.5 seconds behind Villeneuve when he came in. He's obviously going to be behind him when he comes out. We've still got Frentzen to stop. We've still got others to stop. So in other words, we've still got Frentzen to stop, which means that Irvine will be in the lead. If this stop takes more than 7.1 seconds, Schumacher will be in second place, and the theory will play out. Let's see what happens. Back to you.
Well, you've seen Frentzen going through with Irvine right behind him. Out goes Villeneuve. Here is Schumacher. Schumacher is just coming out of the last corner. They're going to hit the track virtually together. Villeneuve comes out of the... And there is Schumacher.
Sure, he will have him.
And passing him.
Yes.
Schumacher passes him and moves. This is the vital move. Schumacher's done what he wanted. He's got past Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, Villeneuve looked like he was trying to stop you getting in the traffic on the North Circular around London then, but Schumacher had none of it and just screamed up the inside. Good move there from Schu. He seized the opportunity when it was there, and Villeneuve will be angry about that. We didn't see Villeneuve's time for his stop. For some reason, the clock wasn't functioning properly. But anyway, that's putting Michael Schumacher where he needs to be, because I think he is slightly faster than Villeneuve this afternoon.
Fastest man on the track, Michael Schumacher, new lap record, 1 minute 39.745. Jacques Villeneuve accepts the challenge. Remember that Jacques Villeneuve must be hoping that his appeal will be upheld, in which case, if he can finish ahead of Michael Schumacher in this race, in the points, he would be world champion. But he doesn't know, of course, until that appeal is heard, and it is upheld, and I doubt that it will be. But meantime, up front, a terrific scrap, and this is it. Quick word from James Allen.
Very quickly, Murray. Frentzen's coming in any second now, but will this be a spoiling move on their part? Very, very short fuel stop, get him out. Because remember, what they're after today is 6 points for the Constructors' Championship, not Villeneuve's race win.
Thanks, James, but Martin.
Well, we saw the in-car shot there of Michael Schumacher swerving across the road to slide up the inside of Villeneuve to take over that position. This is your current leader making his stop. He's going to resume back in 4th position.
And your current leader was Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Here he is rejoining in 3rd position, just ahead of Mika Häkkinen. And
Irvine's up front.
Irvine, sorry, my apologies. Irvine is still leading. Schumacher is 2nd. Villeneuve is 3rd. Frentzen is 4th, just ahead of Mika Häkkinen. And the race strategy is now starting, as you forecast, Martin, to become clear. Everybody has now stopped except Ralf Schumacher. There's an engine going there.
That was Nakano, I think, having a little trip across the gravel trap. That's done his front wing no good at all. And he's got some smoke coming off his right rear there too, like he's got some kind of suspension problem. Like he's got some kind of right rear suspension problem. The wheel appears to be turning in quite a lot, and he's coasting down the pit straight into what I suspect is retirement. Quick flash. Well, that's Alain Prost on the pit wall there. He's seen his car bounce across the gravel trap. Nakano, not a major player. Yeah, he's got some kind of failure before he ever arrives into that corner.
I think his engine went as he turned in there.
No, I think it's the right rear. He's got some kind of right rear suspension problem there.
You're right.
I think the tyre was touching on the bodywork or something like that, or a wheel bearing failure. And that's the end of Nakano's race.
Lap 22, coming up to half distance in the Japanese Grand Prix.
Well, Villeneuve looks to me as if he's enjoying the second set of tyres a little bit better, because he's now beginning to fill Michael Schumacher's mirrors in the same way that Schumacher was filling his mirrors in the first part of the race. But meanwhile, Eddie Irvine is flying off into the distance. What Schumacher's going to be hoping, of course, is that he can somehow get Irvine between him and Villeneuve before the close of play.
Look at Nakano's front wing. He's broken the left front support. It's dragging along the ground, coming in for a new nose. That'll take about 20 seconds. Stationary, plus the time it takes to get in and get out.
He's showing a lot of inexperience there. He really should have and could have parked that car up in the pit lane exit instead of trying to creep back to the pits, because he already knows he's got a fundamental problem.
Well, Michael Schumacher told me that they had found something at Ferrari between the Nürburgring race and here that enabled it to go quite a bit quicker. You're looking at Eddie Irvine now, the race leader, on lap 23 out of 53. He's 11.3 seconds ahead of the battle between Michael Schumacher and Villeneuve, with Frentzen fourth.
Let's just revisit earlier on in the race when Eddie Irvine took Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher in on the outside of one corner. If Michael Schumacher wasn't a part of that, that will go down as one of the great all-time overtaking moves in Formula One.
Yeah, I'd put it alongside that of Jacques Villeneuve passing Michael Schumacher at the Parabolica at the Estoril Portuguese circuit last year, which was a quite incredible one, and Nigel Mansell passing Gerhard Berger at the Peraltada in Mexico. Three top moves. But now Johnny Herbert in 8th position is right up with Gerhard Berger 7th.
Here's a strange one. That was a very slow lap for Eddie Irvine there. Dropped a couple of seconds off the pace. Is this the beginning of what he told us about? I've got to give up my race for Michael Schumacher.
Well, the gap has come down, you're quite right, from 11.2 seconds to 8.8 seconds. But if he's going to let Schumacher pass him, he's got to be very careful to make sure that Jacques Villeneuve doesn't do so as well. It'll call for superlative timing from Eddie Irvine if he's hoping to block and delay the progress of Jacques Villeneuve.
Okay, I think the early pace from Eddie Irvine was Ed saying, look, this is how fast I would have been, and just doing a little bit of the first part of the race for Eddie Irvine's publicity, and now he's going to fall into line and play the team game.
So, mark that gap. It was 11.2 seconds. It's now 8.8 seconds. We're on lap 23. You're watching the battle for second place between Michael Schumacher, Ferrari, Jacques Villeneuve in the Williams. And no matter what, appeal or no, Jacques Villeneuve has got to aim to finish this race ahead of Schumacher.
And let me assure you that if Jacques ends up in a side-by-side wheel-banging moment trying to overtake Michael Schumacher in a legitimate way, and he just happens to pop Michael Schumacher out of the race, I can't imagine he'll lose too many tears, given that he's had this ban that's been appealed for this race.
If I was Michael Schumacher, and I'm not, I would be very careful about keeping some space between me and Jacques Villeneuve. Turn into the chicane, coming through to complete lap 24. Now, the gap, I remind you, was 8.8 seconds. There is Irvine across the road, across the line. They look closer to me.
Now, 46, that was a 1 minute 46 from Eddie. He's backed off 6 seconds. No, he's backed off 6 seconds. Yes, you're right, Murray, the gap is now 3 seconds.
So from 11 to 8.8, from 8.8 to 3, and they're gaining.
Now, this is going to be a bit of synchronised swimming here. How can Irvine seamlessly let past Shuey without...
This is it.
Well, we were now seeing it for ourselves.
Yeah, that's it.
No, but that was the wrong place. That's the wrong place.
Yeah, but can Irvine keep Villeneuve back? Meantime, Michael Schumacher, sensational teamwork, sensational. Schumacher's going to pull away now. Eddie Irvine is going to make his car very, very, very wide indeed, and Jacques Villeneuve is going to struggle to get past.
Well, luckily Eddie got away with that, but I thought he let Villeneuve have a bit of a run at him, as you can see now, but he's got away with it, so it worked well. It was relatively seamless as it happens, and now Villeneuve's got a face full of Ferrari rear wing, and we know how fast that Ferrari is this afternoon.
So, from 11.2 to 8.8, from 8.8 to 3 seconds, the lead changes. Look at the gap that's increasing between Michael Schumacher, race leader, Eddie Irvine, Ferrari first and second, Jacques Villeneuve in third position. Just for the record, these are not the only three in the race. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in fourth place. Mika Häkkinen is in fifth position, 2.9 seconds behind the second Williams. In sixth position and seventh place are Lacey and Berger, and Eddie Irvine rolls the Ferrari into the chicane. I'm sorry, Jacques, I'm getting through it as fast as I can.
Well, I'd like to see a shot of Frank Williams right now. He's looking at 16 World Championship points for Ferrari for the Constructors' title, and he's looking at Jacques Villeneuve. He's looking at Jacques Villeneuve being held up by Eddie Irvine. The Ferrari master plan They've given Eddie his moment of glory. Now the Ferrari master plan has kicked into place, and it's worked beautifully.
James Allen, you're in the Williams pit. What's it like?
I'm standing 10 feet away from Frank Williams. When that little incident with Irvine and Schumacher happened, he took a very, very big sigh, raised himself up, and then hunched back into his position, his glasses perched on his nose to continue studying. Up on the pit wall, Jacques Clair, Villeneuve's Williams engineer, banged his head against the posts of the timing stand. At the moment, they don't seem to have any answers, and I wonder, they're working on it though, they're really working on it.
They've got some worrying figures to think of, and here they are. The lead went from Irvine, 11 seconds down to 8.8, from 8.8 to 3. Schumacher passes Irvine. Schumacher is now 2.3 seconds ahead of his teammate, and he is 2.8 seconds ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, who seemingly cannot do anything about Eddie Irvine. Jean Todt there, the master tactician, looks at his monitor, thinks about the figures, and feels good. Fourth is Frentzen, fifth is Hakkinen, sixth is Alesi, seventh is Berger, eighth is Herbert, ninth is Coulthard, 10th is Fisichella, 11th is Panis, 12th is Damon Hill, 13th is Ralf Schumacher, followed by Diniz, Marquez, Verstappen and Salo, and the following retirements: Nakano, Katayama, Barrichello and Magnussen. Lap 26.
Whatever happened to Damon Hill that allowed Panis through into 11th place, he's managed to recover from. So he was running around. He's running around quite slowly in the 1:42. So he'll not be able to make any impression on this race that he's won 2 times before.
6 Sekunden. Jetzt kommt Gerhard Berger zum zweiten Mal rein.
Ein Wildbremser Gerhard Berger, der sich gerade noch eingebremst hat vor dem Strich der Geschwindigkeitsbegrenzung. Blieben gleich alle Räder stehen, spielt eh keine Rolle mehr, die werden eh gewechselt. Aber kam da ziemlich hurtig an, eben in der Bemühung, da möglichst viel gut zu machen. Jetzt bin ich mal gespannt, wie gut das bei ihm geklappt hat in der Gesamtzeit. Für 6,7 Standzeit. Und 31,6 Sekunden, also etwas langsamer als Michael Schumacher.
Da haben wir jetzt Heinz-Harald Frentzen und Mika Häkkinen. Dahinter Jean Alesi.
Schumachers letzte Runde 1,39,8. Sehr gute Zeit. Hinten dran 1,41,5, 1,41,6. Irvine und Villeneuve. Frentzen auch mit 1,41,4.
Der einzige in den 40ern dann nochmal Mika Häkkinen.
Ja.
Aber auch einer relativ hohen 40er Zeit. Ralf Schumacher hängt auf Platz 13, hat jetzt mal wieder eine persönlich schnellste Runde gefahren. 1,41,534, aber er kommt da nicht weiter nach vorn. Vor ihm Damon Hill, Olivier Panis und sein Teamkollege Fisichella. Aber jetzt ist Villeneuve wieder ganz nah dran an Michael Schumacher. Aber jetzt das umgekehrte Spielchen. Pardon, nicht an Michael Schumacher, an Eddie Irvine natürlich. Aber jetzt das umgekehrte Spielchen. Vorhin haben wir gesehen, wie der Williams dem Ferrari wegfuhr nach der Schikane. Und jetzt konnte man deutlich sehen, wie der Ferrari wieder wegkam. Und jetzt schnellste Runde von Michael Schumacher.
Also jetzt konstant in den 39er Zeiten.
Jean Alesi ist in der Zwischenzeit in der Box. Zum zweiten Mal auch.
Seine Standzeit 7, noch was. Die Gesamtzeit war 32,3 Sekunden, also eher noch mal ein bisschen langsamer als Kollege Berger.
Also das Reglement, Jochen, sagt ja definitiv nichts über Stallregie aus. Das heißt, es ist nicht verboten, den Teamkollegen.
Lap 28, we're riding with brilliant race leader, double world champion Michael Schumacher, who has already won this year at Monaco, in Canada, in France, and of course in Belgium. 4 wins. Looks as though he's on for a 5th at the present moment. Gerhard Berger has been into the pits for the 2nd time. Eddie Irvine there is still holding off Villeneuve, who is being caught by Frentzen, Hakkinen and Alesi. The making, there's Frentzen in the background.
Yes, let's see what this... Michael Schumacher's just done another lap record in a 1:39.5. Now let's see what Irvine and Villeneuve are doing in his wake. It's in the late 40s, so obviously Villeneuve is keeping Irvine very much under pressure. But where's Frentzen? Frentzen should be up there helping out Villeneuve, and he's not playing the role today that Eddie Irvine is for Michael Schumacher.
Well, let's ignore the fact that Villeneuve is potentially going to be penalised further and will maybe lose the points. But at the present moment, Michael Schumacher is on 10 points for leading the Japanese Grand Prix. If he wins it, he'll get 10 points. And in third position, Jacques Villeneuve is on 4 points. So even now, Michael Schumacher has reduced the gap between himself and Jacques Villeneuve to 3 World Championship points. Irvine second, Villeneuve third. Now look back, there is Frentzen. Behind Frentzen is Mika Häkkinen. There's only 7/10 of a second between the second Williams of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th place and the McLaren of Mika Häkkinen in 5th position. Johnny Herbert is in the points 6th place because he's got ahead of Jean Alesi. David Coulthard is in 8th position. And Villeneuve seems to have decided that he's got to settle for the present moment. He's not pushing. Oh, off comes a tear-off strip from Eddie Irvine's fighter.
Well, I can't imagine Eddie Irvine's got a very dirty visor. He's not been behind anybody, so let's hope that didn't go in the radiator ducts of the Williams that was following very close behind.
Now I'm looking down the pit lane and I can tell you that the Williams people are out again. Now for Villeneuve, who can't get past Irvine and they might pass him in the pits, or for Frentzen, who's ahead of Mika Häkkinen, I would have thought it was more likely to be Jacques Villeneuve, who can do nothing about Eddie Irvine. It is for Villeneuve. We've just had the message that it's for Jacques Villeneuve that the Williams mechanics are out in the pit lane.
Well, this is quite an early stop for a second stop. Obviously, they're hoping to give him some kind of track position over Eddie Irvine and disrupt the Ferrari plan in any way that they can, because this is going to leave Villeneuve going some 23 laps on their last set of tyres. Quite a long stint.
And who is the fastest man at Suzuka now? Jean Alesi is 7th place, 1 minute 39.3. And that is a full 1.3 seconds faster than Nigel Mansell's 3.5 litre lap record at Suzuka.
Bearing in mind, of course, that Alesi appears to be on a 3-stop strategy, which is absolutely not working this afternoon. That's put the Benettons way back out of contention. That's why Alesi's set a new lap record. He has fresh tyres and he has relatively low fuel. And now let me tell you about this fuel around here. It's a long circuit, a lot of corners. Every 10 kilos of fuel they put in the car slows the car down by just under half a second per lap. And at each pit stop, they're putting something like 50 kilos of gas in. So just over 2 seconds. Here's Villeneuve for some more fuel. James.
Well, Martin, we told you that Williams were working on something. Now, remember that Irvine came in first the last time round. This time, Williams are bringing Villeneuve in. So this is obviously part of their plan. And you might be right, they're maybe going to refuel him to the end. But this is really all about the Constructors' Championship. I think part of Ferrari's plan was to get Frentzen to attack Villeneuve. Williams aren't responding to that. Frentzen, of course, meanwhile, is going to start attacking Irvine. Watch out for that.
Well, look, Villeneuve shaking his head. The refueling rig didn't appear to go on well. Villeneuve sitting there shaking his head, saying, what have I got to do at this racetrack? Because there he is behind Mika Häkkinen. And, well, it all went pear-shaped for Villeneuve here last year in the World Championship. And it's certainly not been a lucky weekend for him again here.
Well, it's by far the longest pit stop we've had. 13.4 seconds. Ferrari are out in the pit lane.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me that Ferrari haven't responded to the Williams pit stop by pulling Irvine in to make sure he retains track position. Sorry, it is for Schumacher, we've just found out from the ITV pit crew. But thinking about it, with Villeneuve having such an awful stop there, Irvine's got a good track position anyway.
Yeah, at the present moment, Frentzen's up to 3rd place, Häkkinen is up to 4th position, and here is Michael Schumacher slicing his way through the field, passing Mika Salo, who's down in 17th position, closing on Salo's teammate Verstappen, 16th.
Well, the tyre covers are off for Schumacher, but he didn't come in the pits. He carried on, as you can see. I wondered, he's coming up behind some traffic. Maybe they thought we'll pull him in and save him having to overtake that traffic. He's sliced through it. Maybe Michael's taken the decision not to come in after all. Ferrari mechanics are staying out in the pit lane, but still Irvine is on the racetrack too.
Nice one, Jos Verstappen. He saw the Ferrari coming up large and red in his mirrors and moved over and let Michael Schumacher through. Lap 32, 53 lap race. Ferrari are going back into their garage.
Okay, they saw Schumacher coming up with two slower cars in front of him. We're obviously thinking, let's stop now. You can often lose 3 or 4 seconds passing those two cars. If you catch him in the wrong place, he passed them beautifully, put the tyres back in and keep them in the warmers. Uh-oh, there they come
Jump
again.
to it, lads, jump to it, lads. Michael Schumacher leads, Irvine is second, Frentzen is third, here is Schumacher. Herbert is fourth, Alesi is fifth, Hakkinen is sixth, Villeneuve is down in 7th position after his second stop, not even in the points.
It is for Irvine. They are bringing Eddie Irvine into the pits. We understand that this lap, if you sometimes wonder how we struggle to read these races, you can see yourself there beautifully, because the teams don't even know for sure their strategy before the start of the race, and they have to think on their feet all the way through the event.
Look at the gap that Schumacher, right up the top of your picture, has built up over the two Tyrrells that he's passed. And here is Eddie Irvine coming up to lap first Mika Salo with the red flashes on the front of his car, and then Salo's Tyrrell teammate Jos Verstappen. They are respectively 7th and 18th. Salo goes into the pit lane. Now Eddie Irvine does. And Eddie Irvine comes into the pit lane. Now, Michael Schumacher took 7.1 seconds. Villeneuve took 13.4 seconds. Smoothly up to the box of Ferrari mechanics. Off come the wheels, on go the new ones. Here is Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, that was Villeneuve in 1:30R, so no way Villeneuve is going to be past the pit before Irvine rejoins. So Irvine will definitely rejoin ahead of Jacques Villeneuve. As you can see, coming down the hill there, that's Hakkinen.
There is Johnny Herbert. Behind Johnny Herbert is Alesi. Behind Alesi is Hakkinen. Behind Hakkinen is Villeneuve. The next one up is David Coulthard, followed by Fisichella. So the top 9 have gone through. Olivier Panis goes through in 10th position, and they're getting ready for Schumacher now. I can tell you that this is lap 33 in this 53-lap race, 20 laps to go. And those 33 laps just seem to have melted away. A quite incredible Japanese Grand Prix, with, I suspect, the brain of Ross Brawn behind this tactical decision that Ferrari and Eddie Irvine have been implementing. We ride with race leader Michael Schumacher. There are his mechanics up to the 130R. Now the brakes will go on hard and he will turn into the pit lane at enormous speed. James, he's your man.
Murray, this is absolutely fabulous. I love strategy. I love the way this works in Formula 1. I love being in the middle of it. And this is the best I've ever seen. In comes Michael Schumacher. Now, he was going to come in. Martin was absolutely right. He passed the traffic. Ross Brawn told the mechanics, he overruled them. They thought Schumacher was going to come in. He said, no, bring Irvine in now. 11 seconds it took for Irvine to refuel. He got out heavy in front of Villeneuve, who's also heavy. And there goes Michael Schumacher. And if all this works out and Ross Brawn, 9.1 Ross Brawn is as much of a genius as we all think he is, then Michael Schumacher will be our race leader when this all shakes down.
Well, I'm just watching one of the Tyrrells go through, and you look back, and there in the background with the yellow flashes is Eddie Irvine. So Frentzen will have been through. There is Alesi, followed by the McLaren and Jacques Villeneuve, the second McLaren of David Coulthard, lap 34. And Michael Schumacher has made his second, and I'm sure his last stop, and it's a run through, he hopes, for victory for the 5th time this year, to give him a magnificent 10 World Championship points. And if Villeneuve's points are not allowed and he loses the 9 lead that he had, that means to say that Michael Schumacher would be in the lead by 1 point when they go to the last Grand Prix of the year in Spain at Jarama in 2 weeks' time. What an incredible finish for the World Championship season. That is Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and he, of course, is the race leader after Michael Schumacher's second pit stop. But Frentzen is going to lose that lead. It's something like 10 seconds at the present moment.
Frentzen bypassing the pit lane there and carrying on his way, but clearly he's not really in contention because he's got a pit stop to make yet. 2 Japanese drivers have dropped out, Katayama with engine failure and Nakano with right rear wheel bearing failure, as we suspected.
Yes, and apologies, I don't know my Madrid from my Jerez, because Jarama is Madrid, and the next and last Grand Prix is going to be at Jerez, just north of Gibraltar. We're on lap 35. You're looking at the race leader, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's won one Grand Prix this year, San Marino. I don't think he's going to win this one, because he's got to come in and stop again, whereas Michael Schumacher, who will be really flying now with the feeling that he's got a 5th Grand Prix victory within his grasp, will be closing up very rapidly.
Does that mean I have to cancel my hotel in Madrid?
You keep it on, Martin, you never know. Into the hairpin, and out again comes Heinz-Harald Frentzen. 45 miles an hour up to 175 miles an hour, very quickly indeed, as he drops down to the spoon, round the right-hander here, into the left-hander. That's where Hill and Coulthard went off that memorable year in the 2 Williams cars. Dropping downhill again and climbing up to the 130R. Now we'll see whether Michael Schumacher is gaining. I'll just have a quick look. No, there's nobody outside the Williams pit. Frentzen turns into the last corner, the chicane, the right, the left, so he's past the pit lane entrance, no question of him coming in. Past the Ferris wheel, past the enormous grandstand, packed full of enthralled Japanese, over the line to complete the lap, past his lap of the race, 1 minute 39.377. New lap record for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, going for glory, trying to build up enough of a lead while he's out in front to be able to retain that lead. But he's going to need a lot more than the 12 seconds that he now has.
Coulthard in the pits for his 3rd stop. McLaren, like Benetton, have chosen this 3-stop strategy. Maybe they're blistering their tyres, but it's just not working.
Bad news for Frentzen. Pedro Diniz holds him up, not very much, but he doesn't want to lose even a split second.
Well, Frentzen there waving his fist in anger at Pedro. We see David Coulthard leaving the pits. He was in 8th place when he stopped for fuel and tyres. And he'll be struggling to score any points today, which is bad news for him as he fights with Frentzen and Alesi for 3rd in the World Championship. Meanwhile, Frentzen leads the race, but he's net 4th position. He has yet to make his 2nd stop.
I must say that David Coulthard's engine sounded more like a Zeppelin than a Mercedes-Benz V10 when he went out of the pit lane. Let's hope it's all right. Here is the race leader. Red flashes on the nose. And Frentzen, we're expecting him to look at all the rubber crumb around the course. They call marbles, and they act like marbles if you run wide onto them. You lose all adhesion. The Williams mechanics, as I talk to you, are coming out of the pit lane. There is the proof. Ready for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, because Jacques Villeneuve, who is out of the points. It's an awful race for Villeneuve on the track as well as off the track. Frentzen crosses the line. That's Diniz behind him that Frentzen lapped.
Yes, that moment passing Diniz cost Frentzen 3 seconds. He was exactly 3 seconds slower on that lap than the previous lap when he set a new lap record. It's a bit of a wake-up call for him. I don't know where he's been all race, because clearly he's got very good speed in that car, even though it's now running quite light on fuel, because we believe he's in this lap, as you rightly say, Mary.
Johnny Herbert goes through. He's in 4th position now. Excellent performance for Johnny Herbert in the Sauber. The highest position he's had this year was a 3rd place in Hungary. He's had all sorts of problems with the car understeering, particularly in race conditions on a light load. But they've got the car going much better here, and ahead of him is the Ferrari of Eddie Irvine in 3rd position. In fact, lap 37, Frentzen leads Schumacher by 10.6 seconds. Schumacher is 6.6 seconds ahead of Irvine, who is 1.8 seconds ahead of Johnny Herbert. Johnny Herbert is 1.6 seconds ahead of Alesi, and bang goes Olivier Panis's engine. Or is it his tyre? No.
No, that's
an engine. Look at the flames.
That's a fairly serious internal failure on the engine. And
that's the 4th one this meeting. The 4th Mugen Honda this meeting.
He's getting pretty used to that. And as we said in the qualifying show yesterday, one of the things you remember for Mugen Honda very much is how reliable their engines are. Frentzen down into the pit lane. They've been practicing that pit lane all weekend. It's a long entry here, and then a big stop as you arrive at the speed limit sign. One of the cars caught a cone coming in there this morning and ripped his front suspension off. You have to be very careful in this.
You watch Frentzen, I'll watch the track. I'm watching the track, and here comes Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher going through into the lead, followed by Eddie Irvine. There's the new race leader. There is Eddie Irvine coming out of the pit lane behind the Minardi. Bad news. Heinz Harald Frentzen in front of Eddie Irvine. Is he going to get through? No. Frentzen just manages to, and Irvine goes for it.
Well, that amazing pace that Frentzen was putting on just before his pit stop has really catapulted him up, and that is extremely bad news for Ferrari, because if Frentzen can stay second in this race, that's enough points to win Williams their 9th Constructors' World Championship, and Irvine wasn't able to make the move. Remember, earlier on there's a touch of deja vu there, because as Villeneuve came out of the pits earlier, we saw Michael Schumacher slice up the inside of him, and Frentzen was able to block Irvine, and Ferrari will be pretty unhappy about that.
But they're coming up to Tarso Marquez, the inexperienced, or comparatively inexperienced Brazilian, in the much slower Minardi. If he gets in the way, it could be Eddie Irvine's opportunity to get past Frentzen, but Frentzen knows that just as well as Irvine does, and behind Eddie Irvine is Johnny Herbert. Behind Johnny Herbert is Alesi. We're on lap 38 now.
Well, you've got to wonder why Irvine's ended up that far back. They told him to back off and let Michael Schumacher through. We saw that happen beautifully, but now Eddie's probably backed off too much, because he's ended up with a Williams in front of him, and he's really, you know, they've taken the wind out of his sails, and he slipped back further than any of them expected.
Just look at Alesi now, and here's the replay.
Here we come, look. Irvine is doing 190 miles an hour as he comes in there. He obviously braked and tried to, I don't think Frentzen was really doing much, he's just holding the middle of the track. Frentzen probably didn't even realise he was coming at him, but Irvine really committed himself to the outside when he should perhaps have flicked across the road and had to go up the inside. Frentzen now, we saw him putting on good speed before he came in for the pit stop, easily pulling away from Eddie Irvine. What's Irvine's problem now?
Well, Ferrari really do seem to have found speed, because Michael Schumacher is now 9 seconds ahead of Heinz Harald Frentzen on lap 39 out of 53. Frentzen, fastest man on the track. He's actually catching Michael Schumacher. He's got the gap down to 7 seconds.
Well, this is all change as Berger's been in for another stop and Alesi in for his 3rd stop. This is very significant to me, because now suddenly I've been saying all afternoon, where's Frentzen, where's Frentzen? He put that spurt on, he had a wake up in the middle of the race, and now he could suddenly be a major contender. He's absolutely flying. Took a full 2 seconds out of Michael Schumacher on the last lap. Schumacher did have some traffic, but another new lap record for Frentzen. Suddenly he's going to come into play, and Irvine not getting ahead of him on that pit stop was absolutely critical.
Yeah, Heinz Harald Frentzen sandwiched between the two Ferraris on lap 41. This one of Michael Schumacher, the other one of Eddie Irvine, who is 10 seconds behind the race leader, 5 seconds behind Heinz Harald Frentzen, and just 1 second ahead of Jean Alesi, being harried by the French Sicilian in the Benetton every inch of the way. So, there is Frentzen. Now, where is Alesi? Way back behind them, it's some 10 seconds. So down to the smooth curve again. Here is Michael Schumacher. Now, what's the gap visually between him, the race leader, and the fastest man on the track at the present moment on the 41st lap? Thank you very much. That's the answer. The red Ferrari and the blue and white Williams. That car in the middle of your screen, Heinz Harald Frentzen, rounding the 130R, coming down to the notorious chicane. And Frentzen is being delayed, no doubt about it.
Yes, he had to back off there. No way he could have gone up the inside of Diniz. There would have been, Diniz would have had to have turned in, would have taken his front wing and his front wheel straight off. I think he'll pass him easily. Diniz saying, go that side, go to the right. I'll blend the throttle out and let you through. But he actually then on that lap lost 0.4 of a second to Schumacher. It's at 5.4 seconds Schumacher's lead. But Frentzen appears to have more than enough speed to take that car up to the back and give Michael Schumacher a hard time.
We're with him, going round turn 7, up to the right-hander, Dunlop eventually. No, this is turn 7. I was a bit ahead of myself. Coming up to the Dunlop curve, and then Degner, named after the East German motorcycle engineer who defected from MZ, down to the crossover, and here is Michael Schumacher going into the spoon.
No, that's the hairpin, Murray. That'll be the hairpin there. They've got a long run now through a long, undulating right-hander. You can see now up towards spoon. And, well, Frentzen, I think, is definitely catching him. I mean, he appears to have a lot more speed. I wonder if Michael Schumacher's yet aware of quite of the threat that this Frentzen. He's entering spoon. Schumacher's still trying to find some grip on the exit of that spoon corner, heading uphill now towards 130. I will just feather off the throttle, maybe even a little bit of left foot braking. 165 miles an hour through the apex, being careful not to run too high on the curb, brake in a straight line, gently come down the gearbox so as not to lock the rear wheels, take all of the curb, be careful on the outside there, it's slippery, and feed the power in to his 42nd lap.
The gap was 5.4 seconds. You'll soon know. Well, it looks visually to me as though Frentzen is reducing that gap between himself and Frentzen. They've done 42 laps. They're on the 43rd. There's 53 laps in the race altogether. Eddie Irvine is still 3rd. Mika Hakkinen is still 4th. You saw the gap there. 5.5 seconds, so it's being maintained. In fact, Michael Schumacher's got the message. His previous lap was 1/10 of a second faster than Frentzen's. Here is Jacques Villeneuve being pursued by Jean Alesi. Villeneuve up into 5th position on 2 World Championship points, if he's allowed to keep them, which I very much doubt. And we're watching Ferrari. James Allen's got news.
Yes, I'm in the Ferrari garage. I got a message from Martin to try and find out what was wrong with Irvine, why he was going slow. I asked Claudio Bell, one of the team coordinators. He said to me, well, really, he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. He's just there. He's probably a bit cheesed off. He's not winning, to be honest with you. I think that's partly it. But he's safe there in 3rd place. I think the point here is that everybody's getting what they want today. Michael Schumacher's hopefully going to get his win. He's getting his 1st place. And Frentzen is going to get the 2nd place, which Williams need for their record 9th Constructors' title. But I'm sure Frentzen's got other ideas, and that's going to be the interesting point at the end of this race.
Well, yes, I'm still very confused about this because Irvine's job is to protect the tail of Schumacher, and suddenly he's not being able to do that. He's allowed Schumacher to be exposed to Frentzen. Schumacher's responding in his own way by getting on with it and getting the car into the 39s, a 39.7 again as he just crosses the line. See what Frentzen's doing behind him. It's a 39.4. This is the point I'm trying to make. Irvine may be in a safe 3rd place, but Williams definitely get the Constructors' title if this man finishes 2nd. You're on board with 2nd place man Frentzen now, but it exposes Michael Schumacher to a possible attack in the last 10 laps.
Yeah, let's have no illusions about it. To Frank Williams, who owns and with Patrick Head and their colleagues at Grove have built this team, to them the thing that's most important is the Constructors' Championship. Yes, of course they want to win the Drivers' Championship, but for them it's of comparatively little import whether it was Heinz-Harald Frentzen, which it certainly won't be, or Jacques Villeneuve, which I'm beginning to think is going to have it harder and harder. They want the Constructors' Championship, and if Frentzen stays where he is, that is what they're going to get for the 9th time, as Martin has just said, because that is exactly the number of points they want. 6 points, which is what Frentzen is currently earning, and Michael Schumacher is currently earning 10 points. Far more important for him, because if the points are allowed, he would be back in the lead at the European Grand Prix at Jerez in 2 weeks' time. As I said before, a wonderful finish to an absolutely superlative season. He's coming through to complete his 44th lap, to go into his 45th lap. The gap of 5.5 seconds came down to 5.2 seconds between him and Heinz-Harald Frentzen on the previous lap. Frentzen is going over the line 5.1 seconds. He's actually taken just 1/10 of a second out of Michael Schumacher, who's matching him lap for lap.
Yes, Michael Schumacher has responded just Frentzen doesn't have enough laps left at this kind of pace. He's going to have to pick his pace up, but I'm sure Michael would rather now be stroking this Ferrari home to a solid 10 points and having to push like crazy with Heinz-Harald Frentzen bearing down upon him. Eddie, you have to remember, Eddie's back there in the 42s now. That's the guy that was leading the race by over 12 seconds at one point.
Yeah, he is 11 seconds behind Frentzen. He's 1 second ahead of Mika Häkkinen in the McLaren, who seems destined not to get the victory he wanted. You watch Jacques Villeneuve now being pursued by Jean Alesi, and they have lapped Tasso, Marquez, Minardi, and Villeneuve and Alesi are in 5th and 6th positions. Johnny Herbert is 2 seconds behind them in 7th place. So it's Schumacher, Frentzen, Irvine, Häkkinen, Villeneuve, Alesi, the top 6. Johnny Herbert is in 7th place. Coulthard is in 8th position. Damon Hill is in 12th position. The last man on the grid not to have been lapped.
Stelle. Da war der Coulthard mit 40er Zeiten.
Und Ralf Schumacher jetzt auch mit einer 40er. Ja. 1:40.090. Aber das hilft alles nichts. Er hängt fest auf Platz 11, ging von Platz 13 ins Rennen. Und wenn es dabei bleibt, wenn er also diesen Platz ins Ziel rettet, dann wäre das erste Mal, dass Ralf ins Ziel kommt, ohne Punkte zu machen. Bis jetzt gab es bei ihm immer nur Sekt oder Selters, also entweder richtig raus mit Carajo, so wie am Nürburgring, oder aber durchfahren bis zum Schluss und dann in die Punkte oder gar aufs Podium wie in Argentinien. Das wäre mal eine ganz neue Erfahrung für ihn, ein Rennen zu beenden ohne zählbaren Erfolg. Vergleich jetzt die jeweils letzte Runde und die jeweils beste Runde. Ziemlich nah beieinander, da Michael Schumacher und Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Aber in der Summe aller Runden hat Schumacher rund 5 Sekunden vor.
Auch für Schumacher keine einfache Situation, denn normalerweise mit dem Abstand, den er hat oder den er haben könnte, würde man es ein bisschen leichter angehen lassen und ein bisschen ruhiger fahren, aber mit Frentzen im Nacken geht es natürlich nicht, der den Abstand auch immer wieder verringert. Nur noch 4,6 Sekunden liegt jetzt hinter Schumacher.
Und es sind noch 7 Runden zu fahren und vielleicht sehen wir ja noch ein richtig deutsch-deutsches Finale. Haben wir mit umgekehrten Vorzeichen schon mal diesen Zweikampf gehabt in Imola mit dem besseren Ende für Heinz-Harald Frentzen, der damals...
Into the closing stages of the Japanese Grand Prix, a titanic battle between Jacques Villeneuve on the left and Jean Alesi in the blue and white Benetton. They are battling for that critical 5th position, which is going to mean 2 World Championship points for one of them. If it's Villeneuve, it's doubtful that he'll be allowed to keep them, and 1 World Championship point for the other one. They both want the higher points. But right up at the front, on the highest points of all, Michael Schumacher is on his 47th lap out of 53, and he is 4.6 seconds ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who is closing but not enough. There is Schumacher, there is Frentzen. The gap was 4.6 seconds. They're coming through to complete their 47th lap. So there's 6 laps to go now. 6 laps to go of this 3.65-mile circuit. And what a masterly race Michael Schumacher has driven, and Eddie Irvine for that matter. Hats off to him for making the pace at the beginning of the Japanese Grand Prix and the Ferrari tacticians. But down in the pits, James Allen's got news about Michael Schumacher, race leader.
That's right, Murray. Martin was making the point that Schumacher doesn't really want to be pushed like this by Frentzen. I've just had a word from one of the Ferrari guys that, in fact, Schumacher's a little bit worried about his tyres. You remember his second stop, he took on a very heavy fuel load. He's put quite a lot of wear into those tyres. They've done an awful lot of work. getting into this race, having to push this hard. He is apparently a little bit worried, so indeed Frentzen is putting the pressure on him.
So how do they know that, you may ask yourselves? How do they know in the pit lane that Michael Schumacher's worried about his tyres? They know because he has a radio on his car, and he talks to them when he has to, no more than he has to, but that's pretty important information, as Villeneuve continues to battle Alesi for 5th place.
Yes, 2 points there, but of course Villeneuve may not even be effectively in this race. I heard an amazing story just before the Grand Prix that Nigel Mansell used to sing nursery rhymes across his radio from time to time when he was bored out front of a race. But that's the sole remaining Minardi of Marquez, apparently out of the race. Don't turn straight across the edge of the pit lane, please, because cars come down there at 120 k's and you can't see around the edge of the wall, but didn't seem to stop him.
The thought of Nigel, twinkle, twinkle, little star, makes the mind boggle. But now Michael Schumacher is on lap 48, turns into the chicane again. Yes, you can see that Heinz-Harald Frentzen is getting closer all the time. But he's completing now his 48th lap. 4 laps to go, over the line. The gap was 4.4 seconds. Over the line goes Frentzen. New fastest lap, new record lap. 1:38.9. First lap under 1:39. And there is Eddie Irvine third, pursued by Mika Häkkinen fourth. And Frentzen has reduced the gap by 4.1 seconds. 0.3 of a second faster than Schumacher. And Häkkinen now is lapping, as you can see, right behind the rear wing of third-placed Eddie Irvine. This will be a great finish for the Irishman if he stays third.
Well, just to give you an idea of the pace of this race, and obviously Frentzen has been told just apply as much pressure as you can to Michael Schumacher, because that equals last year's pole position for the Japanese Grand Prix. That's how fast Frentzen's going in the race.
Lap 49, Michael Schumacher leads Frentzen by 4 seconds. Irvine is third, 18 seconds behind Frentzen. 0.6 of a second ahead of Mika Häkkinen fourth. Jacques Villeneuve, 13 seconds further behind, just ahead of Jean Alesi, 5th and 6th. And there is the Tyrrell, I didn't see Mika Salo's Tyrrell, out of the race. He was in 16th place. Jean Alesi 6th, Johnny Herbert 7th, David Coulthard 8th. Fisichella is 9th, Berger is in 10th position, Damon Hill is in 12th position in the Arrows. He has still not been lapped. His teammate Pedro Diniz, who is 13th, has.
Well, I'm intrigued to know how Mika Salo made it to that particular part of the racetrack, but I want to underline Frentzen's pace again. It's 5.1 seconds faster than the fastest race lap last year, 5.1. Back now, they both did a 39.4 on that lap, so Michael Schumacher maintaining the 4-second gap.
Yeah, and that's 2.7 seconds faster than the previous all-time lap record. A tremendous drive by Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's been overshadowed by Villeneuve all through the year, but not in this race. Frentzen looks as though he's going to finish second. They're on lap 50 now. Villeneuve is down in second position, still striving and succeeding in keeping Jean Alesi behind him in 6th position. Johnny Herbert is within sight of both of them and gaining. Johnny Herbert, as the fuel load lightens on the Sauber, the handling improves, and Herbert is closing on Alesi, trying to get into the points with 6th position.
There's another good scrap for third place. Häkkinen just 0.6 of a second behind Irvine for the final podium position. I want to correct something I said earlier in the race about 3 stoppers. Benetton have 3 stopped and it's not worked. They're back in 6th and 10th places. It looked as if McLaren were, but they did a short first stop and then 2 long stints thereafter. So they did actually maintain a 2-stop strategy, and Mika Häkkinen there in a strong 4th place, trying to find a way somehow past Irvine.
Well, there is Schumacher closing up on the arrows of Damon Hill, I think it is. Over the line they come. Let's have a look. Yep. And if it's Damon, it is Damon. He knows enough to get out of the way of Michael Schumacher, who he will know is the race leader. And ironically, it's Michael Schumacher against whom he had so many World Championship battles. And behind Schumacher is the man who displaced Damon Hill in the Williams team. So, we're with Schumacher. Now, all the time, Frentzen is gaining on Michael Schumacher. And Damon Hill, that Arrows engine, the Yamaha engine, seems to have plenty of grunt because Damon is staying ahead. Look back and let's see how far Heinz-Harald Frentzen is behind. Far enough, I think. He doesn't seem to be closing.
Bit of a poignant moment here for Damon. He won this race last year, 2 times winner here. He's about to be lapped this year. He's moving over. No, he's not moving over and letting him through. Michael Schumacher will be less than impressed with that. This lap's going to cost him 1.5 seconds at the absolute least. But then, of course, Frentzen also has to pass the Arrows.
Yeah, and this is lap 51 in this 53 lap race. Now, is Schumacher going to get through at the Spoon? That's where Damon went off, as I've said before. Not in the Arrows, in the Williams, and you can see that Frentzen is certainly visually closing on Michael Schumacher, who is unable to close on the tail of... Now, is he going to try and get through? And look at Frentzen as Schumacher comes up to the chicane. Damon Hill is holding his line.
Sure, he will have him under braking into the chicane for sure. He's got to. No, he doesn't. His tyres are not in very good condition at all. He doesn't have the confidence to barrel up the inside there. And Damon doing the race leader, no favours whatsoever. Wouldn't surprise me he doesn't have a discussion with the stewards after that. Schumacher will surely slipstream him down the pit straight. Yeah, exactly. What are you doing?
What do you think you are doing, Damon? But is Damon going to do the same thing to Heinz-Harald Frentzen? I suspect not. Is there going to be some loyalty from Damon Hill to his old team, Williams? Wow, straight past goes Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but we're on lap 52 now. This is the last lap but one. The gap has come down to 1.1 seconds from 5.5 seconds, thanks to Damon Hill's obduracy. He may not see it as that, but Michael Schumacher certainly will. And Schumacher has just got 1 lap to go at the end of this one. It's all or nothing for Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who's got to remember that he's got to stay on the track to get those 6 World Championship points to give Williams their 9th Constructors title.
Well, Michael Schumacher will be going along and having a word with Damon after that. He'll be very, very unhappy about that. Maybe Damon paying off a few old debts there, I don't know. Knowing Damon, I don't think he would have done that intentionally. I think Michael was struggling a bit in the slipstream of the Arrows. Clearly his tyres are a little bit second-hand at this stage of the race, and he didn't seem to really be able to stay close enough to the gearbox until they came into the braking zone for the last chicane, and that's where I expected Damon to pull over, as I think did Michael, and he just simply didn't leave him any space. But I don't think Frentzen's got enough pace to catch and pass Schumacher before the end of the race, but Schumacher just wishes he wasn't there.
Well, this is Heinz-Harald Frentzen's greatest race for Williams, in my opinion, including his San Marino Grand Prix victory. It's been a titanic recovery, and look how close he is. This is the last lap, 53.
I don't agree with you there, Murray. I think the first half of the race, he really should have put in a much stronger run. You can see the kind of pace the car is capable of. The car hasn't changed. Nothing. He hasn't been in, had any kind of setup change. He's just getting on with it. And if he'd have given it that kind of commitment as the Ferrari boys run across the pit lane, ready to acknowledge a great drive from Michael Schumacher and a great, great team effort, Frentzen really could have played a greater role in this race.
And to the end, Jean Todt stays implacably calm behind the Ferrari monitor. He's in charge. Michael Schumacher is very much in charge of that Ferrari. This is going to be a famous, wonderful 5th World Championship victory for Michael Schumacher this year. The man who has motivated the Ferrari revival with Ross Brawn, Rory Byrne, Jean Todt, and all the others that have worked so hard for the Maranello concern. And out of the Spoon for the last time goes Michael Schumacher. Behind him, Heinz-Harald Frentzen. 1.5 seconds was the gap. So Michael Schumacher has really got the message and has increased his lead by 0.4 of a second as he comes for the last time up to the chicane. This is Michael Schumacher's Japanese Grand Prix, out of the last bend for the last time, and in front of the massed Ferrari mechanics, he dives to the wall, waves his fist. Victory for Ferrari, victory for Michael Schumacher, 10 World Championship points, and the World Championship is still very much alight. Incredible. And look at Eddie Irvine. Eddie Irvine going for 3rd with Mika Häkkinen right behind him. It's just as close for 3rd as it was for 1st. And just as Schumacher got that 1st place, Eddie Irvine gets his third place, and Irvine has had 4 third places this year now. Well, victory for Ferrari and Schumacher. Nigel Stepney is the English chief mechanic of Ferrari. Second place to Heinz Harald Fritz, and here is Villeneuve with Alesi right behind him. And Jacques Villeneuve finishes. If Villeneuve does not suffer a penalty, it's going to be very, very close indeed. Well, a delighted Jean Todt. Schumacher the winner, Frentzen second, Irvine third, Hakkinen fourth, Villeneuve in fifth position, Alesi sixth, Herbert 7th, Fisichella 8th, 9th is Berger, and 10th David Coulthard. There. Into the Parc Fermé, out of the Ferrari, climbs Michael Schumacher, 5 times a winner in 1997. Eddie Irvine takes the cheers, and he really deserves them for that third position. High fives for the two of them, embraces for the teammates. From Ireland on the left, from Germany on the right, and if Jacques Villeneuve is allowed to retain his 2 points, he leads the World Championship by 1 point. I don't believe he will be. I believe that Michael Schumacher leads the World Championship by 1 point. It's as close as that going into the last race, with Irvine third, Hakkinen fourth, Villeneuve fifth, and John Alesi sixth.
Well, Eddie Irvine absolutely thrilled to bits with his podium place there. Great team effort from him. You have to wonder how well he could have done today if he didn't have to slow down and help defend the tail of Michael Schumacher. I want to know now, as soon as possible, was Schumacher involved in that move that enabled Irvine to catapult past Hakkinen? Remember, at the beginning of the race, Irvine was neutralised by being stuck behind Hakkinen. Was Michael Schumacher involved in that? And in any event, it was a brilliant move there from Eddie Irvine to change the face of the race, put Williams under pressure, and really that's given Ferrari the result they needed. Johnny Herbert there walking away from 7th place. David Coulthard, I believe, crashed in 130R on the last lap of the race. He didn't make the finish of the race, finished overall 11th without going over the line. James has some news from Ferrari.
Martin, you want to know it now? Well, I just had a word with Ross Brawn, and I said that was absolutely brilliant. The only thing that went wrong was that Irvine didn't get back out after his pit stop in front of Frentzen. He said, you're absolutely right. I said, did Michael really do that? And he said, yes, he did.
Well, you need no words from me to underline the brilliance of Michael Schumacher, as an obviously disappointed Jacques Villeneuve walks in, virtually sure to be now second to Michael Schumacher in the World Championship at the start of the last race of the year. But it really does mean that it is as close as 1 point between them, whichever way it goes on the points and the appeal from the Williams team's trouble that they had with Jacques Villeneuve yesterday. It's going to be a very close thing at Jerez in Spain in 2 weeks' time. And Michael Schumacher, as ever, has proved that he's without doubt the greatest living driver in the world. And as ever, it's lovely to see Michael Schumacher on the top step of the podium. He always looks so unashamedly pleased about it, and he's got every right to, as his national anthem rings out. I first heard that national anthem for Giacomo Agostini winning the TT in the Isle of Man for MV Augusta. I hear it again, as you do, for Michael Schumacher winning the Japanese Grand Prix for Ferrari. Well, Ferrari may have failed to win the Constructors' Championship, but they always said that 1998 was going to be their year for victory. They've done jolly well. They've already exceeded their target for 1997, thanks to the brilliance, and I use the word advisedly, of Michael Schumacher. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, yes, he had his wake-up call, as Martin said, and showed what he can do in the second half of the race. Maybe it would have been better if he'd been able to do it at the beginning as well. But whatever, he's finished in second place, and Eddie Irvine can be well pleased, as his face shows, with that third position for Ferrari, and that is his fourth third position of the year. An excellent performance. Jean Todt takes the Constructors' Trophy, one of the architects of the revival of Ferrari. And next year they will indeed be a team to watch, when all the constructors will be starting with entirely new cars. Narrower, very different looking groove tyres, and I have no doubt that this man will be up front again. Michael Schumacher, winner of the Japanese Grand Prix by 1.4 seconds from Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Eddie Irvine 26 seconds behind him in third position. Mika Häkkinen just 7/10 of a second behind Irvine in fourth place. Very close for first, very close for third. Jacques Villeneuve may get 2 World Championship points, I doubt it though, for fifth position, in which case Jean Alesi gets 1 for sixth. But if Villeneuve does not get those 2 points, Alesi will, and Johnny Herbert, who finished in 7th place, will get a single World Championship point. Giancarlo Fisichella finished 8th for Jordan in Japan at Suzuka. Gerhard Berger finished 9th for Benetton. Ralf Schumacher, Michael's brother, who took him out of the Luxembourg Grand Prix, 10th for Jordan. David Coulthard in 11th position, having, we believe, crashed at the 130. Damon Hill 12th was lapped. Deniz 13th was lapped. Verstappen 14th was lapped. Those are the only 14 finishers out of the 21 starters.
Well, I'm really looking forward to the press conference so we can hear how Michael Schumacher stalled Häkkinen out on the top of the hill there, allowed Irvine through, and then the brilliant driving thereafter from Eddie Irvine to catch and pass Jacques Villeneuve so nicely into the final chicane and run off into the distance just to show his speed before very, very generously dropping back and helping Michael Schumacher out and really putting Williams on their back foot. That was really the complete story of the race, and it's turned the World Championship really completely around. We go to Jerez now, which is quite a tight circuit, and Michael Schumacher's agility around there will be very, very useful, and he's back on the offensive. Villeneuve is on the back foot. If they have this appeal this week now, it's going to be distracting for them, so really it is all to play for heading to the last race in Jerez, the European Grand Prix. Coming up in a couple of weeks' time, There'll be a lot of testing and a lot of action going on between now and then to eke a few hundredths and tenths out of these 2 Williams and 2 Ferraris going into that final race, because really it's too close to call.
Indeed. And as the 135 Formula One crazy Japanese go home from Suzuka, they know they've seen a stunning race. Indeed they have, because I've never seen one quite like that before. And is a possibility that things are going to change dramatically in Jerez. I very much doubt it, though. Michael Schumacher's got the bit between his teeth. The World Championship is looking as though it's starting to go his way, as Ukyo Katayama walks sadly away from the pit lane, having driven for the last time in Formula One in his home country.
Yes, I think it's too early to say it's going Michael's way. I really do. We saw him having 2 horrible races, the last 2 Grand Prix, up until this weekend, where he lost 19 points to Villeneuve, and suddenly it's gone upside down for Villeneuve.
Congratulations on your 5th victory of the season. A crucial 10 points. It must have been one of your most satisfying victories today.
Yeah, you can believe that.
What was the team strategy right from the start? Were you under any orders or any plan?
Obviously the plan was to look what Villeneuve's plan is, and Villeneuve's plan at the beginning was to hold everyone up, to make life difficult, in particular to me, as he probably knows he doesn't score any points out of this race, and so he wanted to make me losing as many points as he can, which meant slowing me down and getting some other cars in front of me. It didn't work in the end because obviously I got Eddie took the chance to pass in a very good maneuver, and then we throw away their plan and used our plan.
Were you surprised to come out in front of Jacques after your first pit stop, or was that expected? Because that was a big advantage for you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we thought for a moment they would go for one stopper, to be honest, and it was then a surprise. And it was quite critical because Jack came out of the pits and tried to close the door, which I'm not so sure whether that was the correct thing to do, just to move over the circuit and try to push someone. I then corrected my situation and took him inside, but it could have been very dangerous.
Now, when you swapped positions with Eddie there, Eddie seemed to be slowing down for a while. I mean, were you talking to the pits at this stage, or was it something that just happened?
No, obviously, we talked certain procedures through, and one reason Eddie could have obviously disappeared was that Villeneuve was still slowing me down, and after a certain time, when I got past Villeneuve, we talked it through that he would then come and let me by to let me get obviously full points and take the victory here.
Was it enjoyable having a bit of team sportsmanship for once? Because we don't see it very often in Formula One.
It's true. I mean, I've said many times that he's a great driver and he's a great teammate, and I really have to thank to him this victory. And I think that whoever had made some question mark over him, I think they will be fully gone by now.
Michael, well done. Heinz-Harald, a strange race for you because you were slow at the beginning and then very quick towards the end of the race. What was the reason for that?
Well, basically I ran very little downforce, trying to be quick on the straight, but at the beginning it didn't work out behind the other guys. I had a bit of understeer right from the beginning, and my target was just to keep on going, but also I had a lot of fuel on board, and it was quite difficult at the beginning to keep up with the other guys.
Did you have any team orders, and were you aware of the situation with Jacques and the rest of the field?
Well, try to be as quick as possible, and of course having the best result as possible here on that race. For sure, we would have appreciated that being in front of Michael, taking any points away. But I have to say, Jacques in this race was really fair to Michael, because otherwise many people believed that Jacques was going into the race and pushing out Michael, but I don't think that that was his target in this race.
Towards the end, you seemed to be catching Michael. Did you think you had a chance maybe getting by him?
Well, catching somebody up on this track is something, but overtaking is the other challenge. I think would have been a bit difficult, and Michael would have been as well, not taking too much risk, but it's very difficult anyway to overtake here.
Well done, Heinz-Harald. Well, Eddie, that must have been a particularly enjoyable race for you. Was it a big surprise to be out there today performing like that, or was it sort of expected?
Well, we sort of knew with an idea that Jacques was going to try and hold Michael up, and you know, I had a few ideas about how to get past him, and it went pretty much to plan, to be honest. And then I started pulling away, and I was just waiting for the phone call. And then it was whenever Michael got past Jacques in the pits, it was obvious I was going to have to slow down and try and give Michael a bit of a gap to Villeneuve. Obviously, that was disappointing, but you know, if it wasn't for Michael challenging Jacques for the championship, I wouldn't have been in that position.
How difficult was it swapping positions like that? Because I mean, it looked fantastic on television. Was it quite fun doing it?
Which one?
So you swapped positions with Michael and you led him into the lead?
We had it sort of planned where we were going to do it, where it was going to be least risk to us or to me, and everything worked out very well. The whole race went really according to plan, apart from Heinz getting past me at the pit stop.
Towards the end, you seemed to be a bit slower than at the beginning. Were you worried about Mika Häkkinen?
For some reason, the last set of tyres, the car was understeering very badly on them, and I was locking the front brakes as well, so obviously I lost a lot of front-end grip from them tyres, and so I was going further and further rearward on the brake balance, and it just nothing was working, so I just really concentrated on getting out onto the straight quick, fast through the last corner, and that was it really. That's all I could do. There was no point to push harder because Häkkinen was always going to be quicker. I just had to drive whereby I was quick in the important parts.
Well,